Hey everybody, here is one monster of a part system. Paid 30 bucks for it. Thermaltake aluminum case, complete with fans. It's an Intel based system, not sure what processor this yet. No power supply. There's the motherboard's hookups. Video card. This is a PCI video card actually. There's your side panel. USB 2 ports, firewire port, floppy drive, memory card reader combo unit, DVD ROM drive, 4 fan controllers and a temperature monitor and alarm all in one. Door missing off the case. But here's the reason why I got this thing. It was very unique in a way. Let me go ahead and take this side panel off, so that way you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. This is really the reason why I bought it, is to show you guys. I don't plan on holding on to this thing for too long. I'll probably save a few things out of it and then sell the rest of it. It's a pretty nice case. Even has chassis intrusion alarm switch. Takes 2 hands to get this door out of the way. It's got the fans on it that this lifts up. There's a motherboard. Notice it has 6 memory slots. Now you're thinking, oh, that's something pretty common nowadays on computers. Well, yes, newer Intel systems such as Core i7 machines have triple channel memory. This is not triple channel memory. This is actually a socket 775 motherboard. And those are DDR DIMM. Those aren't DDR2 or DDR3. Those are just your standard DDR. Dual channel. What's funny is the first 2 slots are orange, usually indicate 1 channels, and the remaining 4 are purple. Every slot says 2.5 volts, so they're all DDR. And look at the CPU core. It's massive. Well, actually you're seeing the fan. This actually got a fan adapter. Down there is the actual core. Solid copper. Copper fans, copper heat pipes, solid copper. This motherboard has a the VRM for the CPU is actually on its separate board, which can actually be removed. It plugs into the motherboard. Now, why in the heck would somebody put such an old video card in this thing? This is an old ATI Rage video card. Very old. There's the AGP Pro slot. That's something you'd probably never really heard a whole lot about, but it never really seemed to really catch on, because later on PCI Express come out and everything else. But this is an AGP Pro slot. From here to about there, this open portion is your typical AGP slot, but this here, and this without this lever flip down, is an AGP Pro slot. This motherboard has a Gigabyte. There's your SATA controller, silicon image SATA link, SIL 3112 AC T144. It's probably a RAID controller. There's your 4 SATA ports. Probably because the piece of crap Intel chipset at the time didn't have really good SATA. Let's see, that is a doesn't say, can't tell if it's probably what ICH series that chipset is, that Southbridge is, but it's just your typical run-of-the-mill motherboard. And actually, my main mistake here. This is not a 775. This is a 478. So it's actually a 478 motherboard. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a stick of RAM and a power supply and see if we get any life out of this thing. Okay, I got a power supply hooked up, got some memory installed, using the same video card that's in there. Let's see if this thing has any life at all. Yep, and it works. It's got a Pentium 4 3 GHz processor, probably a Prescott. Definitely got a RAID controller. It's that IDE chip right there. This motherboard has IDE RAID and SATA RAID, I believe. This has got to be the most extreme socket 478 motherboard I've ever seen. Now, of course, I've been working on computers since 2005, so I've seen quite a few 478 motherboards over the years. This motherboard over here, right quick, this is a Celio P4X100 Dragon Ultra. It also has an AGP Pro slot, but it doesn't have 6 DDR DIMMs. This is actually an older motherboard. Has IDE RAID. That right there was probably the most high-end motherboard I'd ever worked with because of all the features they had at its time. But I've never seen a motherboard that had 6 DIMMs, AGP Pro, IDE RAID, and SATA RAID all on the same board. So anyways, let's go and have a look at this BIOS. Of course, here's your standard CMOS features. Just keep in time. Go to advanced BIOS features. Now, of course, I had just mentioned about that Celio board. That Celio board is a much older board. This motherboard here is probably a later in 478 board. Yep, this motherboard has SATA RAID and IDE RAID. Absolutely loaded with features. Of course, here's your power management. Set this to S3. Here's your BMP PCI config, PC health status. CPU is 43 degrees Celsius. I guess not too bad. Let me feel this heatsink, see how warm it is. Heatsink's a little warm. It's questionable whether they got good quality thermal paste on that heatsink. They have smart fan enabled, so that might explain it. Now let's have a look here at the frequency voltage control. This may be pretty interesting. So we got host clock control. It allows you to fix the AGP PCI. That was something definitely people would want back then. And of course, majority boards nowadays will run that independent of these other buses. It gives you the option to set your memory frequency, host clock. It allows you to overvolt the memory, AGP, and set the voltage of your CPU all the way up to 1.76 volts on this particular processor. I was kind of expecting a little more out of the overclocking section, considering this kind of motherboard. Definitely unique. Just had to hang on to that motherboard just for the heck of it. Then again, I don't really know for sure what I'm going to do. I might sell it. Anyways, this is a Gigabyte GA-8KNXP. I'm not sure if that chipset core is original or not. Sometimes people like to install those to help cool the North Ridge. This thing even has active VRM cooling. There's a fan on that heatsink right there. Just can't see it because of this one. Just give one more look here. 6 DIMMs. Now obviously, seeing this is a 32-bit processor, you wouldn't be able to install probably more than 4 gigs. I doubt this chipset will probably recognize more than that. But the good thing about this is if you have small amounts of memory per stick, like let's say 512 or 512 or 256, you can load it up and still have a decent amount of total memory. Really do like that fan there. And so here's an advantage of having that kind of setup. Notice how quiet it is. I'm going to disable the smart fan. And restart. Didn't really make a difference on this fan. I didn't plug it into the power supply, so it has to be plugged into the motherboard. But anyways, give one more overall look at this thing. What else is nice is they actually included the drive rails, things that go alongside the hard drives. They actually included those with this case. I'm sure there's enough there for the hard drives and for your optical drives too. So before I wrap this up, let's go ahead and do a count of fans in this case. We have 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. That's 9. And if you count the power supply fan, which has 2, that's like 11 fans. Bunch of 80mm fans. Now, that motherboard was something I want to share with you guys, because that's the first time I've ever seen such a motherboard of its kind. I am mistaking this as a 775 because normally I wouldn't expect a 478 to have this many memory slots. But anyways, and the question for comments. Feel free to ask, and thanks for watching.